Welcome, everybody, to Train Tuesday. I am your host, Jim Wiggin, and so glad to have you on board with us tonight. We are going to be talking Athearn fire trucks. We're also going to be talking about Roundhouse recently retooled F7s, so stick around for that. First, though, let's get some shout outs going. We've got Are You a Train Man 2? DG Model Works is in the house. Sid, Delta, Brody, Jim, UP8518, Andy, Ian, Ronald, Jason, and Eugene, just to name a few. Thank you for joining me here tonight live on the live feed. I really do appreciate it. And if you are catching us on YouTube later on, thanks for finding us. If you like the content that you're seeing here at the Athearn YouTube channel, please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get a notification every time a new video drops. So let's see who else is joining us on the live feed. I see David, Jeffrey, Amy. Actually, it's David, not Amy. David again, Alco, Brian, Delta 9, Glenn, Terry, Greg, Jackie, Bo, and Joseph, just to name a few. We've got a pretty good crowd here tonight. And without further ado, I want to jump right into it. We've got a lot of model train goodness. We're going to be concentrating on the HO side. So let's get to it. We're going to start with the Athearn brand HO scale Ford 8F50 pumpers. Now this guy right here, this was one that we offered a couple of years ago. This is the Detroit Fire Department. And we offered this, like I said, about a couple of years ago. These may still be in hobby shops, but it's pretty doubtful. They usually go quick. Now, I've had a lot of people speculate and ask questions on social media about these. As you probably know, I'm kind of a car guy. So I wanted to give a little background on this particular model, and hopefully this will help you in your modeling as well as far as where to place these as far as an era. Now, the Athearn HO Ford F850 is based on Ford's 5th generation of the S-Series model. That was produced by Ford Corporation from 1967 until 1979. Now, some interesting things about this truck. To streamline production costs, medium truck duty trucks and bus chassis retained the cab and hood of light-duty trucks. Also, in place of the twin I-beam suspension, a solid axle in the front was retained. Also, they redesigned the front fenders to accommodate a wider front track and also larger wheels. And the front fascia was derived largely from the 4th generation heavy-duty F-Series, adopting a full-width grille between the headlamps. Now, what does this all mean? Well, basically, these models will fit into anybody that's modeling the era from 1967, even as late as the 1990s. A lot of these trucks even still exist in today's world. However, as a fire truck or a fire apparatus, most of these would last from their prime, which would be 67 to 79 when they were being produced, probably, depending on the size of the town or city, up until about the 90s, maybe early 2000s. That being said, if you're modeling current modeling or modern era, you could also have these as part of a display, and we'll talk a little bit about that here shortly. So we had some fun with the roads this time, if you will. Now, again, just to give you a quick rundown on these, we did have some questions. Do the lights actually function? No, they are clear plastic, as you can see here. However, there are companies that do make LEDs that you can place into these models and make them function, including the headlights. But you get some really nice detail with these. And of course, they have rubber tires, and they are fully licensed by the Ford Motor Corporation. So again, this one here, this was the Detroit Fire Department. For this run, which you have until Friday, the 28th, to place your pre-orders, we're going to be doing some different ones here. So this first one here is Union Pacific. Now, did the railroad actually have fire trucks like this? I'm going to leave that up to you guys. Most of the time, they would, use the municipalities in which they were located in. But larger railroads, it wouldn't be that big of a stretch, especially in a rural area, especially for some of the western roads. So here's a Union Pacific version. Here's the Santa Fe version, which looks really nice. Actually, that Santa Fe Fire Department logo looks pretty cool. Coming up next, we have the Southern Pacific in a really nice white paint scheme. Here's the Great Northern. And even the Penn Central. We got a Penn Central one in there. Now, again, I don't know what it is, but the Penguin Ginger Ale, every time we release anything, they are extremely popular. So we wanted to offer a Ford 8F50 fire truck pumper in the Penguin Ginger Ale. Does it pump water or does it pump ginger ale? That is up to you and your own narrative on your own railroad. But there you go. The Thirst Quencher is available as a fire truck. And then when we've got this, the Firehouse Diner. They're famous for their 5-alarm cuisine. Now, this is something that you probably have seen if you're from the area of South Dakota. I remember a couple of summers ago, I took a trip to South Dakota, and all along the highway, I kept seeing these fire trucks that were no longer in service, but they were doing a bang-up job of advertising something in Rapid City, which I ended up going to later that week. And you can do the same thing here. A lot of these trucks, once they were retired from municipalities, they were auctioned off, and they've been used in parades. They've been used, restored, or they've been used for a sign like you see here. And this is a great way to give your layout or even your module a little bit of a story. Now, speaking of museums and such, we've even got the Ford Motor Corporation's own fire department. This is, of course, in Ford Corporate Blue. And you can see, I can zoom in here a little bit. It's got the original Ford Corporation logo that dates back to well over 100 years ago. 1903, of course, is an important date for any Ford fan. And so you can go ahead and put this in your industry. Maybe your layout has some auto manufacturing. You can put it in there, or you can just put it with your other Ford licensed material like a lot of collectors will. Now, some of the really cool features about these, of course, they're already ready to go. They're factory assembly. You don't have to do anything like that. They have the unique front bumper with the mounted pump apparatus like you'd see in the full scale. Molded cab interior, separately applied steering wheel, a nice little interior. You could actually very carefully take that apart and do some more detail if you wanted to. Clear window glazing, of course, rubber tires, and like I was saying, these are all Ford licensed models. So this is that licensing that I talked to you guys about when you guys are asking for Max and Kenworth and things of that nature. We have to go through Ford to get that licensing, just like we got to do licensing with those other truck brands that you'd like to see us carry. Now, MSRP on these is going to be $34.99. You have until this Friday. That's only a few short days away to place your pre-orders on these. Place your pre-orders because myself included have been disappointed to find out when I want to go pick one of those up thinking that there'll be enough for extra. There usually isn't. The fire trucks sell really quickly once they get to the dealer shelves. So with that, I'm going to stop real quick and see if anybody has any questions on the Ford trucks. Harold is saying these trucks will look nice in a model fire engine house buildings, of course. Eugene is liking the diner. The diner version is really cool. Let's see what else we've got. Joe's got a pretty good idea, actually. He said these would have been nice in gasoline schemes like Hess or BP. They had these in the 60s and 70s up to the early 2000s. Power companies also use them for their natural gas facilities. Joe, that's a great idea. Please go over to our website and find our Athearn product suggestion email and send those in. Those are some great suggestions. All right. Harold says Penn Central. That's interesting. Well, you know, Penn Central sometimes was kind of a dumpster fire of railroads. So I guess that's just why it's there. Let's see. George says, "Hey Jim, sorry. Do you have to get the license you sign agreement all the time, or do it at once?" That's a great question, George. So, typically, most corporations like Ford Motor Corporation, they have a contract window. So it may be annually, it may be once every 2 years, 3 years. They have a contract. We have to, as a company, go before Ford. We do a bunch of legalese stuff with them, and that's what includes our licensing. Now, licensing can be many things. In fact, it's probably a subject for its own video, so I won't get into the all of the minutia of that. But typically, we will do one-on-one licensing with a company. So, say we wanted to do something with Kenworth, we would actually set up a meeting with Kenworth, and our lawyers would get involved, and it could take anywhere between a couple of weeks to months. It just depends on the situation. So yeah, unfortunately, it would be we don't have that opportunity to just do all the licensing across the board in one thing. Otherwise, our jobs would be so much easier. Nope, it's done case by case situation with those companies. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about tonight is we're going to move over to the Roundhouse line. And this is something that we talked about actually this past Thursday. If you missed it, go on back to our YouTube channel, check out the Athearn Extra 2.4. I have Tony Cook, of course, on board to help me along, and I've also got Ray Arnott of Around the Layout fame. Both of those gentlemen joined me, and we talked about this locomotive in particular, as well as some other ones that we're offering up this month. What I'm alluding to is the recently retooled F7A. Now, a lot of you guys already know the history of the F7s, so I don't really need to get into that. But how many of you know the history of the Athearn F7? Now, the Athearn F7 itself has a pretty lush history. It was the first plastic one-piece body locomotive in the Athearn line, and that was back in the 1950s. The Athearn F7 has been the train set locomotive of choice for over a generation of model railroaders, myself included. Now, the classic Athearn F7A has been retooled and improved to even better, with customer requested features such as the 21-pin DCC compatibility, revised shell to chassis mounting, and dual rear coupler mounting options. This classic streamliner is now ready to enthrall a whole new generation of model railroaders. So what we have here, this is the production sample. John brought this model to the Amherst show back in January, and it was a huge hit. And of course, a lot of people asked, are you going to do this in undecorated? Well, stick around and you'll see the answer to that question. Let's talk about some of the roads that we're going to offer in this run. Now, one of the first roads, we couldn't do an F unit without doing the iconic Santa Fe war bonnets. We're offering two different road numbers in this run. Here you see 38C, and it's also available in 45L. Now, Tony Cook of White River Productions, he was nice enough to get me some pictures of 38C actually in the wild and doing what it did best. Here it is in Chillicothe, Illinois, just up the road from where I'm broadcasting tonight. This is in 1966. The photo is from Jim Boyd. It's also from the Kevin U. Daly collection. I can tell you, I was just up at Chillicothe about a week or two ago. It doesn't look like this anymore, unfortunately. A lot has changed in those years. Here she is again. This is in Fort Madison, Iowa. Now, unfortunately, the photographer is unknown. It's just part of the Kevin U. Daly collection, but it's a really cool picture. I don't have a date for you either, but again, it's 38C, earning its keep in Fort Madison, Iowa. So we're also offering the Southern Pacific and the Black Widow. This is also available as 6328. Here you see 6215. And Tony, once again, was able to get a picture of 6215 as it appeared in Los Angeles, California, 1959. Really cool picture. Man, look at that sky. Just beautiful. Now, you can see in this picture the number boards. If you look carefully, I'll even zoom in on this for you. You can see the actual lighting. This is because in this era, that's where the train number went, not the unit number that you see here, the actual train order number. That is something that slowly went away after this picture was taken, but it's a cool detail. And check out the plow. Really cool picture. Again, this was in Los Angeles in 1959. Now we're also offering Union Pacific in this run. Of course, the Armor Yellow looks really good on the F units. This is $14.73, and we also have available for pre-order $14.82. Here is a really cool paint scheme. This is the Canadian Pacific, of course. 2 road numbers available for this. Here you see 1418, and we're also going to have 1424. Coming into the Midwest, we've got the striking paint scheme of the Milwaukee Road. This is 109A, and we're also offering 118C. Now, speaking of Milwaukee Road 113A, here's a picture that Tony provided for us for the Athearn Extra. This is a Jim Boyd photo. I don't have a date on this, unfortunately. However, this next picture, also from the famous Jim Boyd, this was taken in October of 1965. Also, once again, part of the Kevin Udaly collection. And moving on to our last painted prototype is Main Central 681. It's also going to be available with its stablemate 686. Now, for you prototype guys out there, I know you're yelling at me right now. You're probably throwing your chicken and pizza at the screen and screaming at me, Jim, Main Central never had F7s. You're right. However, there's always a small caveat. This is part of the Roundhouse line, so we wanted to offer it to those folks that really do like this paint scheme. The other thing, too, is while it would be super noticeable in the Genesis line, we can kind of get away with it here in the Roundhouse line. Because here's an interesting factoid for you guys. The Main Central had F3s. However, they did have the Far style stainless grills that you see here and some other subtleties that at first glance would make you think they were F7s. Now, the Main Central, specifically the folks that were working in the Main Central, they technically called them F5s. If you don't believe me, there's a lot of Main Central books out there that will verify this. But a lot of the Main Central guys will know that the F5 was a Main Central term, not an EMD term. Take a look at one of these if you get a chance. And yes, there are subtle differences so that you can tell it's not an F7. But for Roundhouse, we think it's a perfectly fine example. And if you don't like that, well, I've got something that you might like. This is what I was talking about earlier. A lot of folks at the Amherst show were asking, hey, are you going to do these in undecorated like you've got here? Now, originally, we weren't really going to do that, but we had such a demand of folks wanting an undecorated F unit that we decided, you know what, we're going to do that. We're going to offer it in both the single headlight like you see here, so that's perfectly fine for northeastern roads. And for you guys that model western roads, we're also going to provide an undecorated with both the both dual headlights. So there you have it. Now, one thing I want to let you guys know about is, even though this is Roundhouse and typically Roundhouse models have details molded on, if I zoom in here, you'll notice the grabs are not included. You just see these little divots. We did that for a reason. And this is both on the decorated versions as well as the undecorated versions like this. We realize there's still a large percentage of you guys out there that enjoy super detailing your locomotives as well as painting your locomotives. So what we wanted to do is, rather than having you shave all that off, just leave them off and put these divots in here. That way you've got a number 80 drill bit. You can go ahead and put those in real easily and add those details yourself. Now, you can take a good look at either online or at your hobby shop. A lot of those details that you're looking for are still available. And you can go ahead and paint these up, detail them up to your heart's content. Now, let's talk a little bit about the features of these. Because like I said, it's a new F7 for the 21st century. really is based on the one that goes all the way back to the 1950s. However, a lot of work has been done into these. So I'm going to show this picture here. This is a pre-production sample that John shared some pictures with me. So this is new body tooling. It is based on the EMD F7A Phase 1 early. What does that mean? Well, that was the most common version produced. I also want to let you guys know that if you look at this picture carefully, you'll see there are no steam generators. Now, the artwork was not able to get updated in time for this announcement. So even though that the artwork on social media and our website shows steam generators, rest assured those steam generators will not be part of the production model. Here's another question that we were getting about how the front of the locomotive was shaped. Not only is it going to have a revised frame with a heavy die-cast weight and provision for a 21-pin DCC decoder, it also has a revised body-to-chassis mounting. This is going to simplify the disassembly. It also allows you guys that are into detailing and painting your own equipment to kit bash this into deskirted versions. What does that mean? Well, as these locomotives kept their service life going into the 60s, 70s, and beyond, this fairing that you can see here, many times those skirts, if you will, while they were aesthetically pleasing, were a maintenance nightmare. So a lot of shops just cut those off. Well, if you did that to the original Athearn F unit, you can see that tab there, you had no way to have that shell stay on the chassis. Well, the redesigned chassis and body combination now allows you to not only use the tab that you see there, but if you deskirt the locomotive, you've got screws now that will allow you to keep that body onto its chassis. Let's talk a little bit about the nose as well. The nose is going to have, and of course the whole locomotive is going to have, flush-fitting cab, porthole, and rear window glass. The old ones didn't include any type of glass. Single or dual headlight per the prototype. And then as we go towards the back, here you can see that new setup for the coupler. There's a new rear coupler mounting box. It's got two mounting locations. One for closer coupling, more of a scale coupling, and one that leads further out so that you've got easier running on tight radius curves, because this will negotiate an 18-inch radius curve. Now again, going back to the front of the locomotive, you can see the window proportions are more in line to what you would see with an F unit. Quite frankly, the old F unit, well, they kind of look like square boxes. They didn't really quite look right. Also, the shape of the nose has been transformed to give it a much more prototypical look, much more based on the EMD. And of course, the number boards have also been massaged to fit much better of the profile to capture the look of the F unit. So some additional features on this retooled model. They're going to have improved all-wheel electrical pickup with 2 wires to each truck, which will provide reliable current flow. Gone are the old little metal hangers that used to be in there. Those are gone now. The horns are still separately applied. McHenry operating scale knuckle couplers are of course included. All-wheel drive with precision gears for smooth and quiet operation. A 5-pole motor with precision machined flywheels and multi-link drive train for trouble-free operation. Now the wheels are RP25 contours. They will operate on all types of track. They are fully assembled and ready to run out of the box unless you buy the undecorated versions. The undecorated versions, you're going to have to do some research and some detailing and some custom painting of your own before it's done. They are highly detailed injection molded body. If you got a chance to see one of these at the Amherst show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And again, the minimum radius on this is 18 inches. So even if you just have a small 4x8 pike, you can definitely run this locomotive without any issues at all. If you go for the undecorated DCC ready, they're $124.99 MSRP. If you go with the decorated, they're $134.99 DCC ready. Your dealer has the price that you're looking for. Contact your dealer today. In fact, do it before Friday, because after Friday, pre-orders on these close, and I can guarantee you they are going to sell out quick when they hit the hobby shops. So with that, let's see what kind of questions or comments we've got. I am looking at that. Somebody is saying there's an echo in here, and I apologize. That might be maybe my microphone is not working, or it could just be a bad connection on your end. Derek says they all look great. I would like to see Athearn make even more roundhouse models, such as the GP35, GP38-2, and the GP40-2 models. Thanks, Derek. If you get a chance, please use our Athearn product suggestion email and send those suggestions to our product development team. Let's see what else we've got here. Couple of suggestions for models. Again, I'm going to point you to the Athearn product suggestion email. Derek, you missed my conversation earlier about licensing. We are still working on licensing for Mac. So until we get licensing from Mac and their blessing, we won't have anything for you, unfortunately. Let's see what else. Randall wants to know, are these undecorated models going to be available at online hobby shops? Absolutely. If you have an online retailer that you normally get your Athearn models from, they will be carrying these as well. So rest assured, you can get those through your hobby shop, whether they be local or online. Alex has got a good question. Is there room for a speaker to be added in, or is it all weight? Honestly, it is a lot of weight in there, but with some work, you can get a speaker in there, especially the way the newer speakers are, like the Sugar Cube speakers. It is possible. Is it a drop-in fit? Probably not. It's going to take a little bit of engineering, but if you've done that kind of thing in the past, it'll be pretty easy. Michael wants to know, will any of the models be available in the Florida East Coast paint scheme? Not this run. However, we continually run models in different paint schemes. If it's a paint scheme that you want to see in a future release of the F7, specifically the Roundhouse F7, send us an email to the Athearn product suggestion, and we will consider it for a future run. All right, I'm going to go back a little bit to see if there was any questions I may have missed when I was talking. A lot of folks are happy about the undecorated. I hope that we have pleased you in that capacity. We do get a lot of requests for undecorated. However, there's been some times we've done some releases, and quite frankly, the undecorated sales have not been good. So in order for us to keep producing undecorated, we need your full support. Randall says, I am getting an undecorated version if I can. Well, if you want to lock in the way to get an undecorated, do your pre-order before Friday the 28th. It is just around the corner. I'm looking at my calendar right now. It's only a few days away. So go ahead and contact your dealer, lock in so that you are guaranteed to get that undecorated model. All right. I've got a couple of minutes left. We can ask some general questions now if you like. And then I'm going to let you guys get back to whatever it is you're working on at the workbench or on your model railroad. And one thing I want to remind you guys is this Friday, 3:30 Central Standard Time, you know what that means. We're going to be talking May announcements. And boy, if we get some great stuff to talk about come Friday. Now, I know somebody's going to want a hint as to what we're doing. I don't have a good hint for you tonight. I can tell you this much. We're going to see some Genesis models, and we're going to see some Athearn models. We're probably going to see some N-scale too. So you N-scale guys, stick around for that. See, I told you I'd probably get somebody who would ask about any hints on next month's release. David's got a question. He says, will the B unit mount like the A's? I don't know if you're talking about the shell to the chassis. If that's the question, yes, it will work. In fact, the current retooled shell will fit the chassis with both the tab and screws. The B unit has not been retooled, so that's just going to keep the way it's been for years. It's just going to have the tab system. A couple of guys already asking about CP KC models. Yeah, not yet. Not yet. A lot of guys are asking about paint schemes. Any chance on CN and Ontario Northland SD40s down the pipeline? There's always a possibility of that. What if we, who knows, we might even offer an undecorated SD40. Then you can do your own road. We'll see. Any Rock Island releases coming next month? I don't think so. I don't think so. All right, time for one more question, and then I'm going to let you guys go. Any update on the Surfliners? Pretty much we are still projecting that will be the end of the fourth quarter, so November, December. We've had a lot of problems with delays, and we're finally getting ahead of those delays, and we just want to make sure these are exactly what you're looking for. So there's been some design changes to make things easier for you, and I hope once you get to see these things, you'll appreciate all the hard work that product development has been doing to these models. No Genesis Steam on the drawing table right now, unfortunately. And let's see, it looks like Sid has one last question. Any Genesee and Wyoming releases next month? I think so. Going on my memory, I think so. All right, so with that, I want to let everyone get back to their projects on their workbench or on their layout. I want to thank you all for joining me here tonight. If you caught us on the YouTube channel, thank you for finding us. Again, like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you know every time a new Athearn video drops. And don't forget, this Friday, 3:30 Central Time, we will be talking about May announcements. I can't believe it's already May we're talking about. So until next time, everyone out there, be kind to others, do some good modeling, and above all, high greens. Good night, everyone.